Hey everyone, we're back with a bigger picture. It's
Month,
been 3 weeks, I think.
um, month or something. I think a
Yeah,
month.
yeah, we skipped one or two. I don't remember, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, this show that we're gonna do right now was actually meant for like I think 3 weeks ago when the whole Atlas thing was brand new and the whole
Yeah.
Epstein thing still blowing up. Um, and now the Epstein thing seems to be finished, or at least close to being finished.
Just on those two topics, like Atlas thing, it's old for us, but like most of the people don't know. And the real trouble come after October when it goes behind the sun. And if well, we'll talk about it. But like, yeah, after October 29th, we will know, is it time to panic or is it just like nothing? And regarding Epstein's are not going away anywhere.
No, but they sealed it. Federal Judge Richard
No.
Berman has rejected the Department of Justice request to
These are
unseal.
Epstein's files, but like people will never stop talking about this because this sealing of it is actually creating more conspiracies out there. So I just it's not going anywhere.
I totally agree with you. And it seems that Cliff High's prediction, like, back at the start of this year about, the whole Epstein thing blowing up,
Yeah.
that he saw in his readings, well, it was pretty spot on, even almost to the month that he predicted it, because it
Yeah,
started with Elon and then it just kept rolling and rolling.
yeah, but it's totally Trump's fault. He shouldn't even have. If he never wanted to release it, then he should not have used this topic in his campaign. If he
Yeah,
just like everyone else just ignore it, nobody would have cared. But since he
no,
like came campaign on that and pretend that they're releasing it, and then they fooled everyone, so now everybody's talking about it.
I fully concur. I have my own theory about it. I think I shared it once. I think he both used it in order to get elected,
Yeah.
and I think he also used it to leverage over those who are actually running the government in order to get what he wants.
No, I
But
don't.
that's my
I just
yeah, that's
Yeah,
my
no, I, because like I think he is in Epstein files, so he's not gonna use that leverage on someone else. I think someone else is using this as a leverage on him. I
Yeah,
think it's other way around.
that's the big question, right? The big
Yeah.
question mark. And I totally understand your point is very valid, and you are probably right, and I'm probably wrong. But even though we're gonna go into a lot of that stuff, but this
Yeah.
episode will be about Epstein. But first, we're gonna talk a little about Atlas, the comet, even though it's already old
Yeah.
news. And then there's
Yeah.
also a real cool stuff with UFOs. So we're gonna do that first, and then we go to the Epstein stuff. And with the Epstein stuff, for the people listening, it's going to be quite confrontational if you're sort of not aware about what the file is about. It's going to be quite, quite confronting actually. Not
And it
fun
will
stuff.
be very controversial for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
Because yeah, at least if you're like a normie, because we're
yeah.
gonna talk about those subjects which are like conspiracies as per like
Well,
government classification, not per us. For us it's a whole different thing, but for you, if you don't know anything about it, you will think like, oh, it's a conspiracy. But no, we're gonna talk some real shit over here.
and I imagine it will probably be 2 episodes because I got a lot of clips and they're very long and very solid information. But yeah, you have to make
Yeah.
up your own mind. But let's start with Atlas because, like you said, there was a lot of strange stuff surrounding Atlas. I mean,
Yeah.
I think we referenced it in our last video, the Atlas thing from a month ago, I guess.
Oh yeah,
And
but
then,
at that time it was very new, so we didn't
yeah,
even have much information.
no, no, but I already thought like, okay, this is something big, right? Because it was
Yeah.
bigger than Oumuamua from 2017 and the other comet that came in between, which was also interstellar. But this one
Yeah.
was huge, right? So it was already sort of, I thought like, okay, this is something unusual. And so there's like a couple things that's very unusual about Atlas, right? Its
Yeah.
size, it's huge. Like it's
Yeah.
bigger than the comet that killed off the dinosaurs, like two or
Yeah.
three times that size.
Yeah.
Then the trajectory is unusual.
Well, the size we are not sure, but I think the maximum size which they can imagine is like 5.6 kilometers. So it's a lot.
No, it's even bigger than that.
5.6 kilometer. Like this
But
is there's some.
we'll go into that. And then the timing is unusual, right? Because it sort of passes exactly like past three planets, and then it
Yeah,
also circles around the sun. And then doesn't have a comet trail, which is very
yeah,
unusual for a comet.
and the
And
speed. It's
and
the
it's glowing.
fastest. It's glowing. No, but the most important is like the fastest object in the universe. The
Yeah,
speed of is like 137 miles per hour.
yeah,
This is
that's
like the fastest object we have found. It's
and then it's
insane,
also glowing, and the glow from the object is also unusual.
and it's colorful glow.
It's also indeed it's also a reddish, colorful glow,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it's in front of the object, which is also very unusual for a comet, right? So I think Avi Loeb, and even though Avi Loeb has been, at the center of a controversy himself, I'm not gonna really go into that stuff. By the way, there's also some other big news because next week we're gonna record or be live. I'm not sure yet on the UAP. Wait, I have to say it right because they have the UAP Deep podcast. That's it.
Yeah, we are doing like a podcast with those guys. They're awesome.
Yeah,
Go
that's
check
really
them
cool.
out. Yeah,
I'm gonna put them on the spot.
yeah,
Here we go. One moment. So these guys, they're really cool. And this will also be one of our topics that we're going to talk about, the soothsayers of disclosure, among other things, also Atlas and quite a couple of other things. But if you don't know them, follow them. We'll link them down below,
yeah,
and I will be on their podcast, and maybe they will be on our podcast too. So that's pretty cool.
yeah.
But Atlas. So let's give a primer for the people who are unaware of what's going on with Atlas.
A mysterious space object is hurtling towards Earth, and while it could just be a comet, a renowned theoretical physicist is pushing the possibility that it could be a nuclear-powered spacecraft. This is the image of the so-called three-eye atlas, raising new questions, with Harvard professor Avi Loeb theorizing this Manhattan-sized space object could be emitting its own light. And if that's the case, it could indeed be alien technology. Adding to the mystery, three-eye atlas also appearing to lack something all comets have in common, a tail. So what exactly could this be, and are we ready for it? Professor Avi Loeb is joining us live, head of the Galileo Project, best-selling author. Professor, always good to see you. Thanks for making the time tonight.
Thanks for having me, Natasha.
So that's sort of the primer, but like you said, there was also something about the glow of the object. So we're gonna jump into this sort of explainer video.
Mm-hmm.
At first, when scientists noticed the bright glow surrounding the object, they assumed it was simply sunlight reflecting off a dusty layer being released by the interstellar body, much like a comet. But new observations and detailed calculations have revealed something very different. Scientists found that the column density of the escaping dust has been estimated at only approximately 10 to the power of 6 grams per square centimeter, a value so small that the dust cloud is far too thin to block or scatter much sunlight. Astronomers describe this state as optically thin. In simple terms, even though dust is being released, the particles are spread out so sparsely that the cloud remains almost completely transparent. This raises a fascinating question. If the dust is too thin to produce the glow, then where is the bright light actually coming from? Well, Harvard University professor Avi Loeb recently explained that the dust cloud around Three-Eye Atlas is far too thin to block or scatter much sunlight. This means that the light we see is coming mostly from the surface of the interstellar object itself, not from dust surrounding it. Loeb also pointed out that based on its observed brightness, the object would need to have a radius of about 10 kilometers if its surface reflects sunlight poorly. And if it were a perfect mirror-like reflector, it could be smaller, but still several kilometers across. He further noted that if 3I Atlas were just a natural rock, interstellar space could only deliver an object this large to our solar system about once every 10,000 years, making such an encounter extremely rare. Another intriguing detail is the reddish glow observed in the light from 3E Atlas. This suggests that the object's surface itself is reddish in color, much like Kuiper Belt objects such as Arakoth, which are coated in complex organic materials created by billions of years of exposure to cosmic rays and ultraviolet radiation. However, Loeb has also raised a more provocative possibility. He suggested that the red glow might not be just reflected sunlight at all. Instead, the object could be generating its own light. And if that were the case, then, just like a spacecraft, it might be powered internally, perhaps even by something as advanced as nuclear energy.
You now?
Okay, so I think that's enough background information for Atlas. So, well, what do you make of it?
Well, so there are a few things. First of all, 1 in 10,000. Let's just assume that that's not aliens, that's just a natural object. So 10,000 years ago, what happened? That was like the global flood, younger dryas, like Noah's flood and everything, which destroyed everything. So that, if it's that thing, and we have noticed this first time in our lifetime, and we are pretending that it's once in a 10,000 year event, then there is a possibility of another catastrophe, natural catastrophe, not created by humans or aliens. So we could see another younger dryas, we could see floods, we could see whatever. But if it come close to Earth, or if it hits Earth, right now Earth is not in the path of it, it's going different direction. But the main thing is, like, on October 29th, it's going behind the sun, and I think for 2 weeks it will stay, 2 or 3 weeks it will stay hidden. We won't know what's happening. But after that, when it comes out behind the sun, if the trajectory stays the same, then we have nothing to worry about. But if the trajectory is changed, then we have everything to be worried about. Now there comes like an alien situation coming. If aliens are there and it's an alien ship, then it's like the perfect way to enter our solar system. So because, like, if you're coming behind the sun, that's like a perfect cover. You won't see it coming, you will not know what it is. And then right after, like, when you come out of the other side of the sun and you're changing the direction, most probably it's an uh alien ship,
Yeah,
especially.
and that's also where the threat narrative comes from.
Yeah.
Avi Loeb has warned that it might be hostile, or at least that we have to take precautions and have sort of
if it's
alarm
alien
system.
if it's alien, then it's 100% hostile, because the trajectory is
Yeah,
taking, it's
well,
very attacking position.
true, but of course you don't know the intent, right? They might just want to land and say hello, or observe,
No,
or
but then there would be a different place to come in, right? Because, like, when you are coming in peace, you will come from the side of the other side of
well, it doesn't
solar system.
if you know that the person that you're visiting is aggressive, you might actually take a precaution against our aggressive nature, or if you are aware that our planet is
No, that,
run by
because,
psychopaths.
oh, okay. Because, like, here's the thing: if we know what's coming our way, and even we are aggressive, we are ready, so we can try to make peace with them, right? Even if we are aggressive, but if we know what's coming. But if that thing suddenly comes in, we will panic and we will might attack. So it's like a dangerous position to come in. The whole problem is that it's coming from that way. So if it's coming from that area, it's most probably like 99% chance that it's a hostile, unless they
But
have, like, yeah.
but we have eyes and ears in space, and I want to play this little clip here because in October will be a very interesting month.
Camera of 0.5 meter in diameter next to the Mars right now. It's called the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and the camera is called the HiRISE. And I contacted the people who operate this camera, and they will look at the 3I Atlas with a pixel resolution of about 30 kilometers. When 3i Atlas will pass close to Mars on October 3rd. And then it will go behind the sun. We won't be able to observe it. But my hope is that when it gets close, for example, to Jupiter, that the Juno mission near Jupiter will observe it. And so we need to use all space assets to learn more about it. If it happens not to...
So basically we have some cameras in space, and one is very near Mars. And on October 3rd, which is pretty soon, we'll know more and we'll get a clear picture of this object.
A month ago, right? A month
what I
later,
want to say, because this is also about Bitcoin and crypto and investing, at least our platform is, watch the stock market on October 3rd, right? be aware of this, whatever it is. It might have an impact, especially if it's truly alien, which, we don't know. It might very well not be. But if it is in fact alien, it will have like a gigantic impact on the stock market. So I can't imagine.
Yeah. Also, those the cameras in the sky near the Jupiter mission and the Mars mission, even if they take a high-res photo of the UFO, they won't release it because they will be afraid of public panic. So they will keep it secret. So we won't know it one way or another.
Perhaps, but of course they now know that we know. So then they better come up with one damn good excuse for not releasing it, because then not releasing it will cause a panic. So
no, but the thing is, if nobody knows, then they won't care, because even right now, most of the people on Earth have no idea about this object. If you go out on a coffee shop and just use the word 3i Atlas, they won't know. Anybody won't know. I've tried it with everyone in my family, in my friend circle. Nobody knows it. It's just crazy people like us who have this idea.
Well, anyway, we're raising consciousness, awareness, and
No, but one more thing. This time it's not just Avi Loeb, because I was listening to him. There's another scientist. He was a Brian something. He's a very famous one. He did Brian Keaton. He did a podcast with Avi Loeb, and even though he was pretending that he thinks it's a comet, but the way he was talking about it feels like he is kind of understanding that, he understand that there is a high chance that it's an alien ship. But he wasn't confronting Avilo, but he was more uh, having a discussion and trying to understand, can it be a spaceship or not. So that's what I'm saying, the big scientists who are nihilists, who have never accepted any theory about aliens or anything, they are also interested in this object, and they are suspicious that there is a possibility that it's an alien ship.
I concur. I agree. Keaton is, by the way, really cool. He has a great podcast and interviews really cool people.
Yeah. Also, one more thing: 1 in a 10,000 event, with 10,000 years an event. And we have also a big conspiracy theory, or whatever you say, a really old mythology about Nibiru, Sumerian planet, which comes once in 36,000 years, but we don't exactly know about it because it's all mythology. Last time it was near in the mythology, when Nibiru was close to Earth, global flood happened. Noah's flood, and Enki was the one. Enki the god was the one who helped Noah to build that ship and save some survivors. On the other hand, Enlil, his brother, was the one who was causing the destruction. And then it is happening again. So it is a possibility that maybe they are Anunnakis and they are coming back.
Yeah, we don't know. We'll find out. And
of course, we don't know, but I'm just saying, until we know for sure, it's cool to speculate. And I definitely want them to be Anunnakis, because I'm a big fan of Anunnakis.
Until they're here, and then you might change your mind. But
as far as mythology go, I think that's the best one.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we love to speculate. That's what we're doing here. And speaking about NASA and space, there was also some other cool news that came out. And there was this guy, I'll pull it up here, who's connected to NASA. This is this fellow Matthew Lohmeyer. He is the new Undersecretary of the Air Force and the former Space Lieutenant Colonel. has previously stated that UFOs may be plasma-based intelligences, possibly connected to spiritual entities described in religious texts. And there's this really nice interview with him, which is actually worth listening to. But before I play it, this whole sort of controversy around Avi Loeb and Louis Elizondo and Chris Mellon, and all these sort of people who are sort of pushing this threat narrative about UAPs, they're also being accused of at the same time to either be connected to or pushing sort of a religious narrative over the UAP story, and that these two things are converging, religion and UAPs, and that it's done on purpose to give it sort of an eschatology flavor, end of the world flavor. I'm sort of agnostic on that whole thing, because I do think like that, if it's truly alien and UAPs and all that kind of stuff, you do have to be aware that it might not be friendly. Right? It's silly to just accept that they come here in peace or whatever. But on the other hand, I'm also totally open to the fact that they might actually be friendly, and that we shouldn't just say they're hostile without knowing their intention, right? So we simply don't know, or they might have totally different objectives and goals here.
Okay. If they don't look hostile, it means they're deceiving us. There is no way that they're not evil. Okay, that's my view. So either they're deceivers or they are just hostile upfront.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Well, let's listen to this fellow over here.
But I was watching a documentary that was done in 2020 called Phenomenon. I was watching it with my wife late at night, and it was probably 45 or 60 minutes into this documentary.
Great show.
We had air traffic controllers talking about a phenomenon that they occasionally see at their airfields. It's not common, it's rather rare, of these balls of light that seem to zip around the flight lines and be able to defy the known laws of physics incredibly fast. And they were like big orbs of light, orange or yellowish in color. And I paused the film, and I remembered, as odd as that sounds, that I'd seen the exact same thing in high school when I was in the mountains in Arizona. And I told my wife, I said, I've seen this. I know exactly what they're talking about. And she said, no, you haven't. I said, no, I really have. And she says, we've been married for 10 years. You've never mentioned this once. And it's true. I hadn't mentioned it because it was one of those things I'd never understood. It was a very peculiar experience. I was with another girl at the time when I saw this. And so I said, look, come with me. We're going to go to Facebook. We're going to go online, and we're going to send a message to this girl I've not reached out to in 20 years. And I'm going to say, hey, remember me? Remember that time we were in the Tucson mountains, which is exactly what I did. I said, do you remember that thing we saw? And I didn't say anything else. And she responded back immediately. And I was like, hey, be careful. My wife's here with me. I don't want you to embarrass me. And she said, yeah, that big freaking ball of light UFO thing that we saw. And my wife was surprised that, in fact, it was just as that documentary Phenomenon had depicted it. And what I shared with my wife thereafter and had always been puzzled about was that this ball of light that we saw descending down over our head got close enough for me to look at it and into it, and it seemed to be buzzing with life, but it wasn't man-made. It was very well organized, very spherical, and it seemed to be very conscious of the two of us that were sitting there in the Arizona mountains, like it was observing us. And it was a distinct impression that I had that I was being watched, observed, that there was a level of interest from the orb to us, and it frightened us. And so we got up and we ran to the car and we ran away, and that thing zipped up and disappeared in the sky.
In the sky. So this guy is Undersecretary of the Air Force and a former Space Force Lieutenant Colonel.
Oh my
and
God.
he's just sitting there relaying this story.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever people can say about disclosure and that it's not going to happen, I'm of a different mind. I think it's happening right under, before our very eyes,
Yeah.
being disclosed as we speak. because these kind of people in these high ranks and just talking about this so casually, and these upcoming news stations like News Nation and others, right? I
Yeah.
think we are being not drip feeded, but I think it's sort of like a tsunami is building up and gonna hit the shores pretty soon.
Yeah, it is building up, but I am actually cautious right now with all these government people who are coming out who have like intelligence past or like some sort of military past, and they keep coming out and giving information. I am thinking that this is probably the basis for Project Bluebeam. It's not the real aliens, it's like they're trying to create this Project Bluebeam drama.
Yeah, and I think a threat narrative would fit very nicely with Project Bluebeam. That's why
Yeah.
I'm sort of skeptical of the threat narrative and sympathetic to people who point that out.
Yeah.
And this is another one, like a former NASA and Lockheed Martin engineer, Richard.
Yeah. I definitely trust him with every word he's saying. A guy who worked in Lockheed Martin and NASA.
Yeah, never a
And
straight
this
answer.
yeah,
Richard
this
Van
guy,
Durek believes that a hidden sensor network of cloaked shape-shifting objects may be scattered around the globe and is being studied by various groups. So, and this sort of fits with another interview that we're not going to go into with this lady who's an astronomer, and Ross Coulthard interviewed her recently, and she also sort of pointed out that we basically are surrounded by millions of objects, unidentified objects in space, and that has been ongoing even before we were entering space. So that sort of corroborates what he's saying. That's a very interesting interview. I'll also link it down below in the YouTube video. But so this is something really cool. We're probably going to talk about this, at some other point because we have much ground to cover. But do you want to say anything about this one?
yeah, I'm just going to be very cautious. I look, I have studied Richard Doty and all those guys back in 90s, how they misinform people, ruin people lives. So now suddenly these guys are coming out of nowhere, getting all the fame, taking all the attention from actual people who are like Stephen Greer and stuff, who have been actually trying to disclose with the real info.
And who are also being accused of being
Oh,
spies and double agents and
so many
counter.
things, yeah. But I trust Stephen Greer more than all these military guys because, like, they came out of nowhere and suddenly they are like hijacking the whole movement.
Yeah,
So yeah, be careful, and the more you read about Project Bluebeam, you will understand. And secondly, I think this is the right time to do Project Bluebeam because AI is taking over. Every company is laying off their people. Mass layoffs are happening right now. Even Paramount, who paid like $1.5 billion to South Park for some reason, they are laying off their employees. Microsoft is laying off their employees, and then all the small companies, even in China, there is a mass layoff happening, and I'm getting information from the people who work on those companies. So there is something big is happening. So if all the people lose their job, what's going to happen? They need to create some sort of drama.
yeah,
Otherwise it will be a nightmare for a government to handle. So they will create this like fake war, alien invasion, whatever, to reduce some population and then take control of everything, and they have to introduce universal basic income or
yeah.
CBDC.
CBDCs, yeah, as I like to call them. So, but there was also other. By the way, I think I fully agree with what you just said. I'm not sure how fast it's happening, but it's gonna be pretty fast. And we're on this hockey stick, right? So even though it
Yeah,
might not look very much right now,
it's not
so,
even happening fast. They are actually expediting it because, like, originally, the conspiracy people, you and I, and some conspiracy people know that they were planning to do something big in 2027. The
mhm,
deadline was 27. Suddenly, everything pushed, and now is the deadline is near. In first quarter of 2026, something big gonna happen, and we already seeing three eye atlas is coming. I think they find it a perfect timing.
yes,
So maybe they found a perfect object which will disappear, and then from there behind the sun, or they can fake this with just like, I don't know
They,
how,
they'll,
but
they'll do a switcheroo.
they do
Other-
switcheroo, yeah, and then they launch a spaceship from there, and then
Oh,
boom.
that's a nice one. I didn't think of that one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
well, like, so remember back in the day when we were talking about Project Bluebeam, I was like, it's very hard to fake alien invasion because they have to show it from far away.
Mhm.
Now I am thinking like, no, because like they found a perfect object which gonna disappear as well behind the sun,
Mhm.
and then if it's behind the sun, then they can just move it somewhere, and they can show the trajectory which is coming very close from Earth, but like we won't even see it coming, and it just they can pretend. So something big can happen, and it's the ideal time for Project Bluebeam.
Yeah, that's an interesting theory. But there's also other stuff that, I'm pretty big fan of Jesse Mitchell's.
Yeah, he's good.
And he has this great show, American Alchemist. And he recently did this video. And we're just going to play the intro. And we're going to return to this video because there's a lot of stuff to unpack here. But I want to give people sort of an idea about what this video is about. So I'm just going to play the intro to make people interested.
I just got back from Peru, where I saw one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my life. What am I referring to? I just might have seen a dead alien. Or an alien-human hybrid. Or an entirely new branch of hominid. Or an ancient human mutilated in a bizarre way to imitate what looks like a gray alien. I'm of course talking about these ancient Peruvian tridactyl, three-fingered and three-toed mummies.
Alien mummies.
Alien corpses. Mummified alien bodies.
Is this real?
Mummified aliens
of Nazca, Peru.
What the f is that?
Oh my god. I can't wait for you to see these things because they're absolutely insane. And the facts around them and the region they were found in are just as trippy. But you're probably already thinking, Jesse, these were already proven to be a complete hoax. Why are you platforming this ridiculous topic? To you, I urge you to earnestly contend with these mind-bending facts. Top forensic experts in Peru, Mexico, and the United States have all investigated these bodies. After thorough investigation, they all think that these beings were probably once alive. They even looked for deliberate mutilation of the fingers and toes, which they found no evidence of.
There's data to show that some of these bodies can be interpreted to be perhaps living organisms.
It's not that they cut off one finger or the other finger.
The bodies are real.
You don't think they were constructed at all?
No, it would be very difficult.
You need to be the best surgeon in the world to do that in replicate.
Catastrophic disclosure is happening in Latin America.
Thanks to our amazing friend, Michael Mazzola, who's coming out with an epic documentary on the mummies later this summer. That documentary is going to be called This Is Not a Hoax. And please pre-order his book, Catastrophic Disclosure, which I am linking in the description. We got a front row seat to this entire thing. We were able to go to Peru and see three of the most interesting tridactyl beings, Montserrat, Sebastian, and Santiago. One of my best friends and fellow UFO freak, Amar Kandil from the massive and very inspirational YouTube channel Yes Theory, decided to join me on this trip.
There's a mutation in one of those genes that could cause changes in digit development.
It has a fetus inside the body.
Oh my God. And the hand and the feet of these fetus are also tridactyl.
Never in the 8 years I've been researching have I mentioned or said the word extraterrestrial. Never. We are talking about humanoid species.
Just from an anthropology perspective, that should be the most fascinating thing.
Graphic evidence of tridactyly exists all over planet Earth.
Everything came from a single place.
This name comes from the word in the Nazca language, laboratory, where cloning and hybridization were done.
These bodies connect with technology. But if I want to use the technology for reverse engineering, then I prefer to hide the bodies and use it for war, right?
We have caught the Peruvian government and Ministry of Culture in multiple instances of bad faith acting around this case. for some reason, they don't want this case to see the light of day.
I put a lawsuit against them for $300 million.
I repeat, that one is fake. I'm doing something real and important, and I'm not a liar.
And if you watch this entire episode and wait until the end, you'll see how we're using state-of-the-art ancient DNA analysis techniques to definitively tell you the beings that we're looking at. Maybe we can solve this mystery once and for all.
So if that doesn't make you happy, I don't know what can.
No, first of all, the production of this documentary is really good. I've seen it, and I'm just it's amazing. I feel you enjoy it.
Yeah, they're getting better and better.
The documentaries are getting better than movies now.
Yeah, and then, I mean, one of the nice things about the documentary is, that it's actually real, right? Because a movie is always, 9 out of 10 times is make believe unless based on a story.
Even if they get a true story, they mess it up with the fiction in there.
Yeah, true, and of course, a documentary doesn't have to be real. I mean, you can have fake documentaries or twisting the facts.
There was one fake documentary. Remember the mermaid one? It was, I think it was on Discovery or Animal Planet or something. But they did the whole whole documentary, how mermaids were found, formed, and how they evolved and everything. It was bullshit. But this is not, because they're using actually scientists in there, and they're showing the whole process. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and so this is sort of also part of the disclosure movement, like people like Jesse Mitchell's, Ross Coulthard, and many of these other people. And all of them are being debated, right? That they're all controversial figures. Nobody sort of says trust this person, trust that person. We're not saying you should trust these people. You have to do your own research and make up your own mind. The only thing that I want to say about that whole controversy thing is, without these people, we would still have nothing, right? We would be back where we were 10, 20 years ago. So even though we might not like all of them or some of them or what they are saying, without of them, we would have, we would still be in the non-disclosure period.
Yeah, exactly. But now let's talk about the substance of that. So the first argument they gave, they are man-made bodies. First of all, the question is, why will they make specifically this body? And they don't even they were really stupid. People were back in the day. It's not even a controversial statement. It's a fact. They didn't know how to do biology and how to do operation and stuff. How can they?
If
first
they
of all,
that would be news if they could.
Oh, that will be actually a groundbreaking theory. Not even theory. It will change. It will shake the whole history if they knew all that thing. So first of all, they didn't know how to do it. They did not have the technology to build it. And then why they built this? What's the purpose?
Yeah, and then bury it in the desert in the hope that somebody would find it 10,000 years later.
And they're so precise that there is not a single evidence of operation over there. Because whenever you cut the body, no matter how good you are, you leave the traces that this was their surgery was performed on that. So somehow they did that amazing thing and buried it for some reason, and then you find the paintings of similar people all over the world. What was why they were doing that hoax at the time where they couldn't even make money out of it? Now I understand people are writing books and stuff. At that time, how they were making even money? There was no books, there was nothing.
And I think it also ties into the work of Stephen Greer, whom you already mentioned, because all of this stuff makes me think of the whole Atacama being drama that was between Stephen Greer and what's his name, the famous the guy who's also into aliens and stuff, the microbiologist. God, I forgot his name.
I forgot his name too.
Shit. Anyway, there was this controversy between him and this other famous UAP person. And
Yeah,
then
I know his name is started with Doctor, and I just don't remember. Gary Nolan? No.
Gary Nolan. Gary Nolan.
Nolan.
Sorry.
Gary Nolan, yeah.
Thank you for
Gary
saving
Nolan.
me. Gary Nolan. So Gary Nolan is also, promoting UAPs and talking about aliens and all that kind of stuff. But I never really trusted Gary Nolan, even though I appreciate his sort of credentials and that he brings to the table and to the space. But I really do think that he has a double agenda. And I think that Stephen Greer was onto something real with that Atacama. Yeah, I call it alien, but I think they used person or whatever. And there was also a Russian one of these sort of tiny figures. And I think they look very similar, or, the cases are very similar to these Peruvian mummies.
Yeah.
And they were actually also found in sort of the same location, except, of course, for the Russian one.
Exactly.
So that's interesting.
But this is one thing, right? Even in cave painting, you see they were like not good artists compared to the people who are like doing art right now, but they were drawing something, and they were very similar to this thing. As per their imagination, I can see like big heads and small similar bodies, big fingers. So why they were drawing the same thing, and then they found some bodies, and is it all just a coincidence? Not even a coincidence. It's like all just a hoax. They were doing global hoax for some reason, and not for their time, for us. Why did they even bury it? Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I think I found it here. Anyway, it's the Atacama humanoid, it's called.
Yeah.
I'll also link it down below with Stephen Greer. He also, I think there's also a file on it on his website. But this is sort of what I came up with. It's definitely something to look into. And then at the end of this intro that Jesse Mitchell just did, one of the people that he interviewed speculated, like, if this is real, why would you tell the public? You would weaponize it and keep it secret, right?
Yeah.
And you sent me this interview with Joe Rogan and Representative Luna.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anna Paulina
Luna, yeah.
And she had this to say on that topic.
Because of the fact, and we can get into that story and what happened to Eglin in a second, but we were denied access and told that we don't have security clearance or the read-in authority on a special access program. That's a problem, because I'm supposed to represent and be an investigative body, and you have then people who are unelected that are operating basically in secrecy, and that's a problem. That's a big problem.
And so how do these people have the authority to do that?
I think it's been decades of classified secret information, then also this aspect of the intelligence community that's been empowered. And it's kind of serendipitous with timing, because when you talk about the intelligence communities and what they've done essentially to the trust in this country with the American people, I think this goes all the way back even into JFK, with how they basically have operated outside of the purview of Congress and basically to an extent have gone rogue up until recently. You're seeing a big push and pull to try to rein in these intelligence agencies currently.
Yeah. So what I want to bring it back to evidence. You said that you've seen evidence. Like, what kind of evidence have you seen?
I have seen photos. I have seen...
what have you seen photos of?
So I was in a skiff, and I can't discuss all that was in a skiff, but what I can tell you is based on the photos that I've seen, I'm very confident that there's things out there that have not been created by mankind.
It seems crazy that people have access to information that shows that there's something outside of us that is more intelligent, at least more capable than we are, and they hide it from everybody else.
What I can tell you is that when you have thousands upon thousands of people around the planet throughout time that have reported something.
Right.
To say that those people are crazy, to say that, the whole concept of even just asking the question that you might not necessarily be psychologically sound, that in itself, that's a disinformation campaign to get people to shut up about it. And that's a problem. We know that the U.S. government has not exactly been clean in a lot of what they've done with the American people, specifically to the topic of UFOs.
Which makes you think that it's probably because there's something there. If you think about the motivation they had with Project Blue Book, when J. Allen Hynek was running Project Blue Book, this specific intention was to discredit all stories.
And he ended up ultimately, though, after all of his investigations, becoming someone that was like, I think there's something here. But that's true. By the way, a lot of people might not necessarily go onto Google and look up that information, but you can actually look up the declassified reports from Project Blue Book. What's also interesting, though, is when we're talking about tech, right? The ability for this tech, being that it exists, to change dependence for entire governments on things like fossil fuel, et cetera. It's look, I think everyone has a moral obligation to do what they think is right. Okay. And so if you're in a position of power and you see something wrong and you're not addressing it, I think, this in itself, getting the truth out there for people to decide for themselves. I'm not telling you what to believe. I'm just telling you in our investigations and what we are pushing for in regards to transparency. I would like to see the federal government roll out some of the stuff that we've been given access to, because I think that information belongs in the hands of the American people. And it's not even just the U.S. government. I mean, there's other countries around the world that have done certain things like this. Now, look, I've had a lot of crazy people.
So anyway, I'll stop it here. I'll also link this one, of course. I'll link everything as usual.
It's a very good interview. However, I have a lot of problems with Luna, but on alien topics, she is really good.
Yeah, and I think you can see, that Trump. That's I think there's a lot of ties between the Epstein thing and the UAP file. And I think that I've always said that from the start. And, also the fact that Jesse Mitchell's, he used to work, and maybe he still does, for Peter Thiel. Yeah. So there's also, the PayPal mafia connection thing that runs through the whole Trump campaign. And, I think also when you look at Ross Coulthart, and he made he talked about the propriety, right? That the government cannot simply claim or lay claim on all these reverse engineered craft because that would violate the law. And there's a lot of interesting stuff there. But I think, a lot of these companies have been left out because they were not chosen back in the day when this was put on the cover. And they
were for example, Peter Thiel's company was very much involved in creating a drone technology, and it has come to light that back in the day, New Jersey drones last year, they were Peter Thiel's Palantir drones, which were spying on the people. That's a big conspiracy right now. Of course, we don't have proof because nobody actually knows what they were, but it sounds good. It sounds very promising, because Trump came out and he said, I know what they are, but I can't tell you. And then similar technology was used in Palestine, in the Israeli-Palestine war, and they were drones by Palantir. And then now they are saying that they did the test run to spy, and then they did another test. So there's, even in Israel, they didn't, in Palestine, they didn't use it. They did a test run, and then they were very successful with that. And then they, I think, released an ad of targeting one specific person, real footage of targeting one guy, and it was very precise. So I think they are using the same technology, and this is the whole thing. So there is a lot of the things which we thought that they were left out, but they were not. They were just secretly doing stuff.
No, I agree that there's probably a lot to sort of the Peter Thiel connection and all of this stuff. What I wanted to say is what I mentioned earlier. I think one of the reasons that Trump used the Epstein thing, because why would he otherwise use it, was to sort of get rid of these gatekeepers, or at least bend those gatekeepers to his will, by using the Epstein files leverage to get control over this UAP file. Because you see, this whole disclosure movement is very much connected to all the friends of Trump, right?
Okay, so I have a total opposite of it. Yes, Trump's friends are involved in it, but I think Trump is not, because if you go and read Epstein files, especially I've read, it's a huge files, but whatever we read, the conclusion I came out with, the victim of it was the employee of Trump, and the one who got who
There are
was
definitely connections, and we're also gonna
no,
dive.
so but she was the employee of Trump, and then Ghislaine Maxwell recruited it from Mar-a-Lago, and then she trafficked her. So Trump was very much involved with those guys, no matter what how MAGA will come and say. And then we can see uh, Trump's interview when you talk about will you release JFK files. He said yes. Will you uh, declassify MLK files? He said yes. But when they asked for Epstein files, he was like scared to answer properly, and he said, "Yeah, I will see if that thing." And then back in like 2020, somebody asked him a question: "What do you think about Ghislaine Maxwell trial?" He said, "I wish her luck," which give like impression that he was very much involved with those guys. Maybe not in child pedophile. I'm not saying because he's like a pedophile, but it is a possibility that he was involved in sex trafficking, and we know that he was like a
Or
horny dog.
financing. Yeah.
Not even but like he was a horny dog.
Yeah.
He was like sleeping with so many like porn stars and stuff, so he could be involved in just like regular sex trafficking thing, not like with children. But once you have a dirt and you're a president, you can be easily controlled.
Well, and we're gonna dive into that. I want to also highlight another connection because one of the victims actually also speaks about UFOs and aliens. So I think I wanted to do it in a different format, or at least in a different order. But let's do it in this order. Give me one moment, because then I'll have to find the right spot. I think it's 40 minutes. Okay. I wrote it down. Okay, here we go. So this is another connection to the whole UAP Epstein thing. It might take people by surprise. She was one of the victims of Epstein.
Into Western high society for the purposes of gathering evidence against key influencers. Primarily, it would seem through sexual blackmail. Is that something that you think is likely?
Very likely. I mean, these criminals have many branches to their organizations, and we've also got to realize that the Maxwells used to own the media. In England, they owned the media. So when someone owns the media, they can very much control about what's being put out there. And for instance, I haven't been able to speak out in the mainstream media about what happened to me, and neither have many other Epstein victims. Where are the other 250 Epstein victims? Where are they? And let me tell you that some of them have been found dead. Like Carolyn, one of the main Epstein victims, she testified against Ghislaine Maxwell. There were only 3 girls who testified against Maxwell. Carolyn was found dead. And you know what? The media wouldn't put it there. The only reason it was put there was because another Epstein victim made sure it was put there. And they blamed her for the investigation being ruined. And it's not her fault, because people should know. When someone who's testified in a case like this has been found dead, it took them 6 months to put it there. And it's only thanks to Kate Bricolette from the Daily Beast. She's an amazing journalist. She's the only woman who's actually ever written my full story as well. Because what they do is they always leave out Clinton's name. Just like conveniently his name's left out. Apparently they leave it out because it distracts from the emotional impact. Well, if you ask me, I would like their name involved, considering all the deaths involved in their administration.
Did you see Clinton behaving in any way that would be untoward? Did you see him in any compromising situations?
No, but when the only weird thing is when I met him, because these people are very clever. And when I met him, he held onto my hand for like over a minute, I said, "How nice to meet you." And then he shook my hand, and then he held onto my hand, and he kept talking to someone behind him, and he just held onto my hand for like, a good like 2 minutes. He just sat there holding onto my hand. Well, he was standing actually. He stood there holding onto my hand and just talking to someone. And I always found that a bit weird, because I've never had someone do that, where they hold your hand and then they start talking. When you go, "Nice to meet you," and it's like they won't let go of your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
No, it's very, very intrusive and assumptive and
it was
possessive.
very odd. But I only saw him in South Africa. I didn't see him on the island or anything. But I think we've realized that there's a lot more going on here. I mean, I was also taken to Bill Richardson's mansion in New Mexico. And him and the vice governor came out and they looked me and the other girl up and down. It was like they were having a meeting, and then they went back inside. And another thing, it's weird that I'm mentioning him when I'm mentioning them, because a weird smell came out of that room, and I smelled the same weird smell at the hotel at the Cape Grace when Clinton, because it looked like Clinton and Epstein were actually sharing a hotel suite, as far as it looked like, because he went into one room and he walked through where I was doing the interview. And I smelled this weird, horrible smell come out there. And I smelled the same smell by the governor of the New Mexico's house. And I thought it smelled like feces and urine. But one of my friends said, Juliet, geez, this sounds like it could be the smell of a dead body. But, I don't know. But it was just like, I've never smelled a smell like that before. And it was very creepy. And it was also disguised with cleaning chemicals. But I could smell it.
Well, there is a lot of evidence that certain sectors of high society are deeply invested in occult practices, ancient esoteric belief systems, and unfortunately, plenty of evidence has accumulated over the years in the form of, primarily overwhelming amounts of testimony that speak to the dark reality of ritual sacrifice, the practice of black magic in elite circles. During this
Sorry, that was the wrong one, but definitely also
it
interesting.
it was really cool. So I just want to talk a few things about that. So
Yep.
she was talking about smelling something on 3 different locations.
Mhm.
And she thinks it could be like dead bodies, but first of all, dead bodies don't smell right away. They
Mhm.
have to decompose to produce like a stinky smell.
Mhm.
So like if she was smelling that, it means it is something else, not dead body, because like even if they kill someone, they will remove the body right away. They are not gonna let it decompose in their house. It's like doesn't make sense, and especially in
And,
their houses. They could go to
and
Bohemian Grove and sacrifice and do that shit, but in their houses, especially like government houses, I don't
yeah.
think they will do that shit.
By the way, she's Judith Rose Bryant. She's one of the victims, one of
Victims
the
of
many victims who actually spoke out and did this interview with Jay Anderson. We're gonna play some more clips from it.
Yeah.
But you know what
So
else smells? There's something that really smells.
this is
And
where I was okay. First,
okay,
say
okay,
no. I was saying like they were opening portals and bringing the demons in, and they smell like that. But you
well,
can go.
maybe demons also, but another thing that has been reported to be very smelly are aliens.
Oh yeah, aliens. Yeah, exactly.
And
Especially that Brazil one.
so
That was like very famous for its smell.
So, but I wanted actually to play something else because I wanted to connect it to aliens. Well, we just did, but this is a more direct clip. This one was actually what I wanted to play.
Like I said, they have many branches to their organizations, but what one starts to realize is there must be something underneath that island, because the accommodation wasn't suitable for all the celebrities that apparently went there. Like they say, like Oprah went there, and they got all the names on the flight log, but where were they staying? Because I never even saw Epstein's main bedroom. Do you know that he only took me into a weird side room in the dark? I never saw his main bedroom in the big balcony. I only saw it on the when they did like a drone footage, of it. That's like, oh God, he had a whole nother bedroom that I never saw it because I was taken into this other bedroom in the day.
Well, this is a bit of a disturbing thing as well, because I posted about this recently. I've actually forgotten the name of the man. You might know who it is, who's now purchased Little St. James Island, but he's planning to build a resort complex on this island, and no forensic investigation of any sort of buried evidence, and that will never happen now, because they're building apparently an apartment resort complex. I mean, who would want to stay at a five-star resort on Epstein's island? I don't know, but the fact that they're doing this to me suggests that there is a lot underneath that island that would absolutely reinforce the types of things that you're suspicious of, and that's never going to see the light of day.
Well, also where Epstein lived in New York on 71st and 5th, Bill Cosby lived like across the road. The other sex predator who was put in prison.
Right.
Woody Allen lived pretty much nearby. Maybe there's something underneath there too. Why do all these people live in the same area? There's a lot of weird stuff. And also in New Mexico, it's quite clear that it seems like there's something underneath there.
Yeah.
And also, you've got, it's directly in between Roswell and Dulce base. where a lot of weird things have happened, and there's just too much evidence on it. And I saw a UFO when I was there, outside at New Mexico. I went to have a cigarette and I saw a weird lights flying, and then I had the weird thing waking up in the lab. And it's so creepy because I can't place when that happened, but I know it happened.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So waking up in a lab, this was not on the island. This was in New Mexico.
On the island, I saw him shapeshift.
Okay.
In the bedroom.
Let's talk about that first, and then we'll touch on this lab experience as well. So, can you explain what you mean by shape-shifting here?
Well, when I was in the bedroom with him, because he used to take me into that small bedroom, and it was always dark and really cold, and then it was almost like when he was orgasming or something. Like I looked at him, and suddenly his face grew big like this, and then I saw these huge black eyes like this, and then a big mouth with this horrible tongue and this sort of dragon horn stuff, which is almost like the devil, or, I can't explain really what I saw, because I saw it I can explain it, but it's so hard. I did paint it, but I burnt that painting because I just hated it. But I can paint it again. But I just, I saw him turn into this horrible, creepy thing. And I wasn't on drugs, I wasn't drinking alcohol, nothing like that was allowed. A lot of people think there were parties going on there. There weren't any parties. There was no alcohol, absolutely not allowed. I smoked, but I had to smoke far away, and hide. And I had to wash my hands after smoking. And they were very fanatical. They did not like things like that. But I could have been drugged. I don't know, because again, when you're in a place like that, they could slip something in your drink, in your water or in your food. You just never know.
I mean, it could also be psychic, like psychological trauma projection. Have you thought about that? The human brain can create so many different things in traumatic scenarios.
It could be that, but let's get to blood types now. You wanted to ask about blood types. It's the perfect timing for it. You get Rh negatives. Okay, there are different people on Earth here. Okay, it's actually very dangerous for an Rh negative woman to have a child with an Rh positive man, but they don't tell us it. They hide it from us, because guess what? Most of the American presidents Rh negative, royal family all Rh negative. You know the story of the blue blood. Well, apparently, what it comes down to, I don't know exactly much. I'm not a scientist, but I have done a research, and it comes down to the Garden of Eden. When Eve took the apple from the snake, apparently she actually mated with the snake. So it was interbreeding with its genetic, you can look into nephiliums. There's a lot of, stuff about this. It's very, very strange, because there's other weird things with the Rh negative is 2 Rh negative people can only have an Rh negative child. For instance, my child's father is an Rh negative, so my child's Rh negative. It's very unusual to find an Rh negative person, actually. But both my parents are Rh positive, and then suddenly an Rh negative can come out. So the whole bloodline thing. So now let me get back to the dragon and everything. Okay, so when you go to Basque, 25 to 35% of people in Basque are Rh negative, but mostly around the world, only about 6% are Rh negative. Like, for instance, if someone goes to Thailand and they have an accident and they're an Rh negative, it's like a death sentence. They don't have Rh negative blood there. It's a very specific blood that comes from a very specific place. And what they're saying is it's actually the hidden Hebrews, or I don't really, again, I'm still...
It gets into the Sumerian story, the Anunnaki, the old god kingdom, that type of genetic bloodline, and the preservation of that through the European royal families and the bloodlines and such.
And let me tell you that Elon Musk is apparently Rh negative.
We can pause and then
Leonardo
discuss
DiCaprio,
that,
Tom Cruise, the list goes on. I did a lot of research.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's a long clip. So she made a lot of wild claims in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying she's 100% wrong, but she's wrong about certain things, which I know for sure. For example, she claimed that in the Garden of Eden, Eve mated with Satan. It is not reported in any Bible or any literature related to that. The only thing we get is Adam's first wife, which is also not in the main Bible, but mainstream Bible, which is in the when you go on Gnostic side, then you find Lilith, who mated with Satan, and she spawned all the demons. So but I think she she need
mixed
to
it
do
up.
better research, because like now you're accusing Eve of something which is, I think, is bullshit anyway, because like Adam and Eve both ate the apple. It wasn't just like Eve. So just uh putting a blame on Eve, and now you're putting another blame on her, which is not right. So it was Lilith who did that.
Yeah, yeah.
Secondly, yeah. So
But
this is
yeah.
like, and
But
then
I
the
think
R,
she just mixed it up.
yeah, I think she mixed it up badly over there. And this
Yeah.
is like what I want to tell people, like if you want to make a super, like a big claim like that, just at least do proper research, because then you will be debunked on something you misunderstood. Just make
This is
sure what
actually
you're
a very old video we're watching. It's from
yeah, but
10 years ago. I
how
think.
old doesn't matter how old it is. It's like whenever you're doing a claim, just make sure that like you know, like, because like if you are not making a claim, you're just discussing a claim, you can make, like us, we don't make any claim, we just discuss things, so we can
Mm.
get things wrong. But she is like a primary source of something, and you make a claim like that, and then you destroy your reputation.
Oh, it's not so long
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah, second thing I want to say, like RH blood, where it could come from.
Mhm.
Again, going back to Bible, Nephilims were not like direct children of like Eve and angels. They were like children of Adam, like later, before the Noah's flood, but later in the history after Adam, they were having sex with not aliens, angels. Which
Yeah,
I
who
think
knows?
is,
Aliens and
yeah, who
angels,
knows,
like,
maybe,
they're
yeah,
getting mixed up
maybe.
anyway. So.
We call them like fallen angels. So they
Yeah.
were having that, and then the children who were born after that, they are called Nephilim.
Mhm.
But there is also like wording issue, because like some people call them Raphaim, and Nephilim were the people who were the fallen angels. So there's like a language issue, like like the naming issue over there. But beside the point, angels and humans give a birth of one uh, generation,
Mhm.
which were giant. So now if you are trying to
That's
make a
why you needed
connection,
a flood.
yeah, which were destroyed. So the problem here is like the people they're trying to connect here are not giants. For example, royal family, presidents, they are definitely not giants.
No, but you know that's true. That they are not. But
Yeah.
there are sort of stories of giants, and there are also some interesting things. For example, David Paulides with the whole Bigfoot thing. They
Yeah.
also did an extensive DNA research on that.
On what?
And it turned out that first of all, that they didn't have the DNA on the father's side, because you have like the DNA of the mother and the father, right, from those
Yeah.
samples, and they all sort of corroborated. I think they had like hundreds of samples that they collected.
Yeah.
And the the father's side was unidentified. They didn't have anything in the national database that sort of resembles anything close to that. So that was a big unknown. And the mother's side is traced back to Mesopotamia. So, and I think also, you can also trace it an X amount of years back. So, but the point was, that could have been sort of a mating of a Nephilim hybrid, right? Because they created hybrids. You had the giants who created hybrids. So,
again, yeah, this is like really because like speculation and conspiracy, it's like get into a very dark, like very gray area. I don't want to even I want to speculate within reason, where I can find
Yeah.
some sort of literature.
And then sort of to bring it back, like this is basically very serious, right? She is a victim. She has been traumatized.
Yeah.
She's just recounting it as she experienced it or remembers it, and her memories
Exactly. Okay, so one thing I said like where I had issues with that, but now I'm gonna say where I think she's right about it is like when she saw the demon, like the person switching.
And the way she describes it sounds almost like an alien, like big
because
head, big eyes.
It's really specific for a drug to do that, because like if you are drugged, you are not just seeing one thing in one instant, you're seeing multiple things, and you know that you are drugged, especially those who have experience with drugs. So the way she is describing is like something happened at that time where because if you go into David Icke's reptilian conspiracy, you will know that they just project their shape. Like they look like
That's the claim.
reptilians in real life, but yeah, they project their shape shifting. They don't actually shape shift, they project in the mind. So there is a possibility that the psychic connection have something cyclically happened and she saw a glimpse of his real face.
Yeah, she said when he orgasmed, he changed shape for a moment.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like when you're having orgasm for a second, you could lose control.
Yeah, definitely. So I wanna continue that one. Actually, you know, so this will definitely be a 2-part series because
exactly.
Yeah, so we'll just stick with this this story of her. And then we'll just run through those clips, and then in the next one we'll sort of actually go to the meat of Epstein, like sort of the real evidence behind it. Because I think, you know, people listening now, and especially for us, sort of to jump just into her testimony to the crazy bits, you know, people probably think she's lost her mind, but a lot of it is actually sort of corroborated, except of course for the alien stuff. But that's her testimony.
And before we go there, I'm just saying a lot of people are now realizing aliens and demons are the same things. Even Anna Paulina Luna was saying the same thing in Joe Rogan podcast, that they are interdimensional demons.
So some people are saying like sort of I mean, like I said, I'm agnostic on that whole issue because I think it's not that big of a deal actually, but you know, some people who are skeptical are saying like, oh, they're doing it on purpose to mix religion into the UAP file. I think Racer Giuliani also raised that point in order to create sort of this new religion, like that they're building up towards a new religion, a new story of religion, which is also part of Project Bluebeam, of course, you know, to create a new religion. And that's what they're doing. I'm actually more in line and inclined to what you're saying. I think, you know, these beings have been around for quite some time, and they have been observed by many people and cultures throughout time. And they have been recorded in different ways, and which, despite the difference, are remarkably similar. And these religions are basically sort of stories of interactions with them.
Exactly. It's not just one religion. It's not like the series of one religion. Like, for example, it's not just Abrahamic religion mainstream, but you will find the same thing in Hindu religion. You will find the same thing in Buddhism. Buddhism have the same kind of entities, and then Taoism, and wherever you go, you will find some sort of crazy.
Even shamans and aboriginals and Indians,
shamans,
it doesn't matter if it's a centralized hierarchical religion or like a more distributed decentralized religion. They all share sort of similar facets and aspects and stories. So I totally agree with you there, and I think, you know, people sort of stumbling over the whole religion things are, I think,
and even if you get out of the religion side and just go to the atheist Bigfoot chasers. Even Bigfoot conspiracies that they are interdimensional beings. They don't actually live here. They come and they not just Bigfoot, the whole cryptid world who follow the Mothman and all those things. They are also like interdimensional beings.
Yeah. And that's, you know, we should definitely do a show on Skinwalker at some point.
It's been like weird.
I think this new season is almost over, but you know, there's a lot of great clips from and discoveries from that new season. Definitely worth watching. And but also David Paulides, who actually also comments on Skinwalker Ranch, and you know, I think that he's by now pretty close with them too. You know, by sort of reaching out, because there are research overlaps, and the stuff that he did with Bigfoot sort of corroborates. There were actually, you know, some of these researchers at Skinwalker actually saw Bigfoot also on Skinwalker Ranch. So there's a lot of overlap between the cryptids and the UAP file, and you know, all this kind of stuff. The woo-woo stuff that Cliff High predicted years ago, that, you know, it would explode all over the mainstream. And it's exploding. So here, wait, what's this? I bought the top, yes. Okay, that's irrelevant. We're not talking about it. Okay, let's play some more because it's a really cool interview.
But
Also-
like Lollipop just gave us like some emojis.
Yeah.
Like some shocking emojis.
Lollipop, this one. We're shocking
Yeah.
people. Well, anyway, also watch the entire video, this interview with Jay Anderson, and the other stuff what Jay Anderson does because he's really good. And this interview, by the way, was from 5 months ago, or maybe he re-uploaded it. I think he re-uploaded it because I think it's much older. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Search, even Jimi Hendrix, like the Beatles, like most of them, they're RH negatives. So most people are RH positive. Everyone in my family is RH positive. As far as I know, like my mum, my dad, my one brother, I don't know my other brother, but type, he hasn't tested, but I think people need to test their blood types because you'll find that RH negative people are often more troubled. They're more likely to smoke and drink because they don't like the state of the world as it is. It distresses them. So anyway, let's go back to Basque. Okay, so 25 to 35% of the people in Basque are apparently RH negative. Then you get Saint Michael slaying the dragon. Saint Michael, the saint. People must do research on him. He's amazing, apparently a real person from the 1500s. Then you get Joan of Arc, also slaying dragons. And she was one of the witches that they burned 1430. They started burning the witches in England. 1497, bonfire of the vanities. They burnt all the books, but they didn't burn them all. They actually stole them and put them under the Vatican, I think. I mean, I don't know this for a fact. I wouldn't want to get sued for saying that. But
I think that there's a lot to be looked into here, and especially when it comes to the preservation of these bloodlines. I have some friends who are within that world of higher society and have, familial connections to these types of bloodlines, and they agree that there is certainly a protected class within that upper tier that considers themselves ancestrally ordained to rule, that they have this bloodline right to be who they are now at the top tier of the world. And I think we are dealing with that. Whether it leads directly back to non-human engineering, I'm not sure, but that's certainly something that I also think is worth consideration, and it's something that people are beginning to try and actually understand and talk about a bit more, the idea that maybe we have been engineered at some point in our human story.
There's a whole lot of stuff that's been like sort of hidden from us, and when you actually have time to...
Yeah, so I actually have some other clips. Do you want to add something to this one?
No, let's just play those ones.
Yeah, so she actually also has something to say about Trump, and then she also has something to say about child sacrifice. And
there must be, because the reason I don't want to comment on RH blood types and all those things, because I'm not very familiar with this topic. Also, I'm not interested in that, so I don't go and bother with that. So it is
I
what
think,
it is.
I think there is definitely something to it. And like I said, the work of David Paulides, but I think there were also one or two other researchers who are following similar lines. It's very interesting stuff, that actually. So, but it's extremely speculative, of course. And like she said, this is her own research after she sort of got released, and she's of course heavily traumatized by the whole ordeal, and she mixes up stuff. So take it with a bag of salt, of course.
No, I mostly trust her what she's saying, but I think she's getting her facts wrong of her research. But whatever she experienced, I am very sympathetic. She have my sympathies, and I support her. But and I understand, like, a lot of people can mix up the details of the research because that's not their expertise. And while you have survived a traumatic incident like that, so yeah.
Okay, this is not the best shot of Jay Anderson. He's about to change into a demon, I think, here.
Or about to have an orgasm.
Okay, let's go.
I would like to get your opinion on how this is all being handled right now by the Trump administration.
Hope. People had a lot of hope.
Yeah.
People have been very badly lied to, and it's one thing to lie to one person, it's another thing to lie to millions of people. I don't think they're going to be releasing anything. Even on Twitter, and X now, I've been blocked like a few times. They just take my account away. I had another account with 10,000 followers and just blocked, bam. You know, so I don't think they want any truth coming out. I think they're basically the lesser of two evils, or hopefully not the worst of two evils. I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I just think that more truth should come out. But, you know, they don't want people knowing the truth. They want to keep the people as sheeple. They want to keep the people mind controlled. They don't want people knowing. And also what I've thought about is if people knew the truth, you know, if the cloning and everything is real, like, you know, as far as Bill Clinton banned human cloning in 97. Sorry, we didn't go into the whole cloning thing because, you know,
It's okay. We can come back on these another time because I know you don't have much time today, but that's another thread with this.
I'll explain it quick. Okay, because if they were taking eggs, they've got underground laboratories, right? So then 1996, they cloned Dolly the sheep. They cloned a sheep. 1997, Bill Clinton banned human cloning. Why does he ban the federal funds used for human cloning? Use of federal funds for human cloning. And then apparently in 2002, they cloned the first baby, Eve, in December. So, right, I'm taken there in September. I think they've taken my eggs. They clone a baby in 2002. No one ever hears about anything again. It's all on 60 Minutes or BBC, one of those things. They were all talking about when a human's going to be cloned. Suddenly it's shut down. You know, so there's a lot more going on here. And they don't want people knowing about it. You know, that's what I'm saying is that as far as releasing, you know, people are saying release the list. The list has been released. We've seen all the names on the list. What about releasing the information and, you know, of what's actually been going on? But the problem is if they release information, it's going to break people's minds. It'll bend their brains. A lot of people won't be able to handle it. So I suppose that's why they don't know what to do. Because if they release the truth, all hell will break loose.
Yeah, because it seems to represent the concrete, the cement of the actual system itself. It holds the system together in the way that it's operating in the modern era. The corruption, the blackmail, the necessary levels of information bargaining that seems to be taking place. The only thing we can do is raise awareness. And Juliet, I mean, I want to thank you just for being so brave to even get on and speak to me about this and be upfront and to put your message out. So I know we don't have a whole lot of time. I'd love to reconvene. I'd love to have a longer talk with you at some point. But I just want to just say thank you so much, sincerely, from the bottom of my heart for you coming and speaking to me today. I really appreciate it. And I know that everyone listening deeply appreciates it as well.
Let me just tell you, the only thing I need to research more about rites of passage. But the one thing I did look into and I've always thought about is Rumpelstiltskin. Give me your firstborn, I'll give you power and glory. So do you know how many of these people have lost their firstborn child? Elon Musk, he lost his first child. Oprah lost her first child. Jerry Lee Lewis lost his first child. Bill Cosby lost a child. The Rothschilds lost a child. The Maxwells lost their first son. Mike Tyson lost his child. Anne Nicole Smith lost a child. John Travolta lost a child. Keanu Reeves lost a child. Prince lost a child. The Kennedys lost their son. And also in South Africa, two of the wealthiest families here also lost their sons.
That also links, and maybe if you're not familiar with this, it can be something that you research as well, because I believe this ties the ancient Canaanite traditions of Baal or Moloch, a Canaanite idol, and they would give their firstborn to this idol, and it was a furnace. They would literally construct a bull-shaped furnace and put the firstborn in there, and that's one of the big threads leading towards modern day elite practices of this type of stuff. That it's a modern day Canaanite religion, essentially.
Yeah. So
and this is very common knowledge among people that these guys worship Baal. All the leaders and everything, they either worship Moloch or Baal.
Yep. Yeah. That I mean, for people like you and me, this is sort of common knowledge. But I imagine that a lot of other people who are less versed in religion and history, let alone UAPs and aliens and Epstein victims, it can be sort of mind-blowing. Like, I think the first time that I saw this interview, and I think it was actually years ago that he did this interview, it was kind of shocking. The first part of the interview, I can play it. I'm not sure if I can play it, but I can play it. But she sort of goes into how she was the whole story is sort of how she got into the Epstein machine, and also about Maxwell and Epstein himself, of course. But there's a whole sort of backstory to who she was, where she came from, and how she got involved. So watch the entire interview with her, because it's definitely worth it. As she also talks about waking up in a laboratory on sort of a metal table being operated upon, which is where that's why she sort of gets into these blood types and stealing babies and cloning and stuff. By the way, the cloning stuff, I mentioned the realism, right? I think I mentioned that before. Those were the people who are actually very big on cloning. So you got a lot of UAP religions. Like, this is a list of UFO religions, from the Iterus Society to the Nation of Islam to the Order of the Solar Temple. But realism, these guys over here, they were really big. They came from France, and their guru or leader or spiritual leader was called Rael. And he had sort of an encounter with a UAP, a UFO. He was sort of taken on board on a flying saucer, and that sort of, and then he started inspiring other people around him. From the 1970s, like this flower power hippie movement, sort of like these UFO religion spin-offs happened, and this was one of them. And they were really big on cloning, and sort of the child that you mentioned, Eve, it was cloned by them. Because everybody was saying, like, why are you doing the cloning? And then they were forbidden in France, and then they immigrated to Canada and eventually went to the US. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of when Bill Clinton banned cloning. And that was, of course, after they already cloned Dolly the sheep. But, some claim that the cloning went underground, right? I mean, the stuff that's now coming out of China, with that you have robots carrying fetuses, and that they can actually grow these babies in robots. I mean, cloning is kind of obvious.
Obvious. And secondly, I think Bill Clinton was trapped because he was doing something which the deep state didn't like. So they sent Monica Lewinsky to trap him. It's very common
difficult
knowledge now that Monica Lewinsky have ties with people's favorite Mossad. So that's also in a lot of files out there. So people need to see. And then Ghislaine Maxwell's father was a Mossad guy too. That's also proven. But I think she was sent to trap him, and I don't think it's just to do with Israel. I think because I go always the bigger picture, I think it has to do something with all the darkness they are dealing with, like the deep the aliens thing, demons thing, whatever they are doing. We actually have no clue, but everything just connect back.
And I think also, just to tie in there, because people are always focusing and hammering on the Mossad, and that's definitely.
You're right. Yeah. I am one of those guys.
They're definitely, at the top tier of intelligence agencies doing bad stuff, and I think they're really good at it because they sort of have to. But I think you should see sort of the Mossad and the CIA and the MI6 and all these other intelligence operations. I see them as one entity, as one unit, with different...
maybe different units controlled by one big entity.
Yeah. So I think the sort of the central banking, intelligence agencies, and the industrial military complex, which is not the same thing as the army, because I see a difference between armies and the industrial and military complex, which is more commercial and more about sort of developing technologies. And armies are, of course, tied to nations, like they're very...
Yeah, and then army is not evil because in general, US Army, the soldiers are good people. They, even though they go and fight, they think they're doing the right thing. They don't understand that what they're doing is bad or what, because they have limited information. However, intelligence guys are not that. They know they're doing evil and they still do it. So they're like two separate.
Yeah, so I think for example, so the CIA and the Mossad and the FSB, and these are just different branches of one entity, right? And they might argue with each other, and they might have different goals and objectives sometimes and clash. But in general, I think their interest align much more with each other than with the nations they say they represent, right? And the same thing goes for central banks. I think central banks have way more in common with each other than the nations they say they represent. And I think the interest between intelligence agencies and central banking much more align with each other than the interests of their governments and especially the people. So, and I think that actually also ties back to the occult, right? Because when you sort of look at the origin of banking, and you look at, so this is a theory that I have come up with by reading a lot about religion and oracles and the ancient past. And when you sort of, especially when you dive into oracles, like the Oracle of Delphi, but you had like tons of different oracles all throughout the Middle East and the Mediterranean. What these oracle places were, they were neutral terrain, often sanctuaries for criminals, and people could flee there and get sanctuary. But they were also incredibly rich because all these princes and kings and emperors, they would come, and also commoners would come to these oracles to get divinations. And in order to get them, you had to please the gods. And so you had to bring gifts. And the bigger the gifts, not only the better the prediction, but also the better the outcome, because you could actually bribe the gods by bringing bigger gifts. So these oracle sites were hugely rich, like they were fantastically rich, and they were neutral. Plus they had spies in all the courts. So in order, and plus they were also into remote viewing if it existed, and apparently it exists. And when you look at oracles, they had all the attributes for remote viewing, like all the things like taking out the senses and all those kind of things. So then you would have to need spies in different courts in order to check the results of your remote viewing, but also in order to get information to make proper remote viewing sessions, right? You need some information to do those. And of course, these courts and princes and kings also wanted representatives of these oracles in their courts in order to, in case they needed a divination or whatever. So what do you have? You have you have a central bank and an intelligence unit, intelligence service. They are operating international. These oracles were often also connected to each other. And the rich and famous, most influential people were connected to these sites. So
also,
and of course, they were in the occult. So
but there is one thing, I think that's the last thing we'll say and end it after that. But like, I want to remind people, like, if you go in all religion or mythology, you will find yin and yang. There are two groups who always fight for the battle. Even in Sumerian, you will find serpent versus the eagle. So serpent is Enki and eagle is Enlil. And everywhere there's like also like angels and demon. In our like mainstream religion, angels are fighting demon. And whenever one group take more power, control more power, there is always a battle, and then the balance is restored. So I think right now all the evil out there, and we can see evil right now, it's not even just a word. It's like you can actually see a lot of evil happening right now in this world. So I think we are about to witness something spiritual, something insane, and something destructive. We will see a battle between good and evil, not good and evil, because I don't think it's about good and evil. I think there are two groups who are fighting for the control. So I think right now eagle is in more power, so serpent gonna do something. Right now we are in the time of eagle, not in the time of serpent, and serpent is being pushed and pushed and pushed. So serpent gonna do something big again. Also, if you go outside these mythologies, you will see, just in alien world, you will see the fight between the reptoids and the tall whites. They are also enemies. They also fight for the control of this universe, of this world. So whenever the reptoids, like reptilians, are taking in power, the tall whites come. Nordic aliens, we call them Nordic or tall whites, they take over and then they fight. So again, the tips, like the balance is not there anymore. Tips like there is something need to happen to restore the balance, and we are going to see something. Either it's alien, either it's demon, either it's like gods, whatever.
Yeah,
Not the god, but like the small g gods.
Yeah, there's definitely a dualism and a battle going on, right? That's also recorded in all religions and
exactly
mystery traditions. That there's two forces, and then like you said, we don't know if they're good and evil per se, but they have different agendas and they're duking it out. And there's probably much more factions, and also in sort of to add to that, right? If those in control, so first of all, those in control probably have reverse engineered alien technology. I mean, those people who are actually in control, sort of this deep state, global, sprawling, central banking intelligence service behemoth. Then and they're fighting, or they're actually in conflict with UAPs, right? I mean, there's a confrontation going on with certain UAPs and sort of the deep state that you can sort of see also with these narratives. So then it also makes sense that one group is being backed by an NHI of some kind, right? There are also stories that there are sort of deals made with presidents and governments and NHIs, right? Because how could they otherwise stand a chance against superior technology unless they had a backing by one of these groups who also has superior technology? So that's my take on that.
Yeah, let's see, man. It's crazy, and I think
and I think also Joe Rogan also, I think like a month ago or a few weeks ago with Atlas, he also made the point. I think you also made it at the beginning of the show, like, maybe you have a reset every, like you say, 10,000 years, and they fling an Atlas kind of object towards Earth in order to, reset the whole thing because it's getting out of control.
No, this is not even our point. We are just like, it's not even our point. It's like the scientific point. Like scientists say that it happened once in a 10,000 year event, and something big happened. Like last time it was flood, this time it will be something else. But that's what like the whole point is. So it's not just a conspiracy theory. It's like based on scientific fact.
Yep. Yeah. So
and then the planet Nibiru also. That is also a big thing that is coming. That like comes and go, and it's like weird. It's a weird thing.
Yeah, there's definitely something going on there, and that's also something that we will go into at some point. We have to wrap it up.
We have to wrap it up. But I'll also say that if you go back to the Anunnaki thing, there's like a known wonder which is called like Hanging Garden of Babylon, which disappeared. It could be a spaceship that was parked there, but it was like hovering over the land. That's why they used to call it a hanging garden. And then it moved away, and now it's coming back. It looks like a rock, and which is like a ecosystem in there for them to live around. And they go and they come back and they travel in that hanging garden, because we don't find any traces of it, but it's like a historical account. A lot of people have seen it, but we don't even find any evidence of it. One of the seven wonders. And so it disappears. So there is something to it too.
And then that just made me remember something else. Uncharted X also did a huge discovery, like I think a few weeks ago, and I also wanted to talk about that, and we will talk about that, but it ties more into Atlantis stuff. But he basically did an episode on something that is just as mind-blowing as what they found under the Giza Plateau. So there's a lot of stuff, and it also has to do with what you were talking about, like an ancient wonder, like for example the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. But there was also another ancient wonder which was also talked about and revered throughout the ancient past, by many from Herodotus to you name it, who were talking about a labyrinth.
Yes.
And they probably found that labyrinth, and it's actually there hidden, and that's very cool.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about that because, and that is being recorded. That labyrinth is being recorded in many, many mythologies.
Yeah, Uncharted X did an excellent video on it. It's long, 2 hours, but like almost the entire first 40 minutes or so is going through all those historical accounts by all those different people from the past to almost now, right? Because it's, that sort of whole story about that labyrinth is sort of haunted also modern researchers and archaeologists, and then he goes into the technical side, and then he shows that that they might very well have found it.
Yeah. Okay, we'll discuss more about that. That's interesting. It's coming. A lot of things gonna come, and we will be shocked.
Oh yeah,
we'll be on the forefront of it because we
I
will
mean,
always be
even you and me,
reporting it.
even you and me, right? Because right now we're just talking about it, and of course, you see videos, and it's I love it, but I mean, when it becomes really real, like because it's still not really real yet. It's mostly stories, but I think when it's really real, and even our minds will be blown by the implications and what it all means. So, but I think next episode will be about Epstein, because we now sort of hopped from thing to thing. But next time we'll really do a deep dive into Epstein, because it's definitely worth it.
And also the cover-up is really important to discuss.
Yeah, and it ties into the UAP file. It's my opinion.
Yep, I think so too.
Okay, that's it. Next time we'll be on the show of the guys from the UAP, the podcast. I think I said it right. I don't know if it will air on Sunday, but we will record it on Sunday. So anyway, we'll let you know. And then we'll see when we do our next one.
All right. Have fun. Bye.
Take care.